Hey guys, in this video we're going to create a RESTful API using Ruby on Rails. Now this isn't going to be a clean cookie cutter type video where I have everything laid out in front of me. I do have some snippets open, I have some blog posts to look at, but a lot of this is going to be kind of like freestyle coding. Alright, so we're going to build a really simple API where we can fetch data from our database. We're going to be using MySQL, and we'll fetch it, we'll send it out, we'll send the response in JSON. Of our articles or whatever you choose to use as your data, and then we'll be able to add or make post requests to our API to add data. We'll be able to update and delete data, and so on. All right, we're not going to get into authentication. We might get into that in another video, but I want to keep this relatively simple. All right, now I'm on Windows, and I know a lot of Rails developers don't like Windows, because it used to be a nightmare to develop on, but it's actually really easy now. All you need to do is install this Rails installer, and you'll have Ruby installed, you'll have Rails 5 installed, and it's very, very easy. All right, so you should be able to follow along with this no matter what. I'm not going to go through the installation because it's easy enough, and you can see I have this git bash command line. If you guys want this instead of the standard Windows command line, you can get this at git-scm.com, and it's for Windows and Mac, and it gives you the Git version control system. It also gives you some other Unix-based commands. So I always use this in Windows. I never use the PowerShell or the standard command prompt. All right, now you can see I'm in my C drive and I'm in a folder called Sites. When you install Rails, it's going to create this folder for you, and that's where all your applications should go. All right, at least your dev applications. If I do an ls here to list the contents, you can see that there's also a sample to do app. So we want to create a new application here, and we can do that by using Rails, and we're going to say Rails new, and let's call this we'll call it My Articles. Okay, it's going to be an API that's going to fetch articles from our database. And then you want to make sure that you add a special flag on here, which is --API, and that's going to give you some extra tools inside your application to work with a RESTful API. It's also going to strip it from some of the other stuff that you don't need, all right, as if you were building a full-on application. So you want to make sure that you add that flag. All right, so if we go ahead and run that, it's going to create all the folders for us, or it's going to create a My Articles folder with the entire structure inside there. All right, so if we cd into My Articles, and we take a look at the contents, you'll see that we have a Rails application. Most of the stuff we're going to be working with is in the app folder. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up in Atom. So I'm going to add a project folder. Well, actually, we can just do this. Oops. We can just do Atom dot, and that'll open it up. All right, you can see all the files over here. Now we're going to be using MySQL as our database, and when you install a Rails application and you don't add any extra flags or anything, by default it's going to use SQLite, and there's actually some flags we could have added to change that, but I just want to show you how to do it manually. So if we go into the config folder and we go into database.yml, okay, YML is like a configuration type file, you can see it uses SQLite 3, which is like a really light file-based database. It's not something you would want to use in production. Now we could leave this, but I want to show you how to set it up with MySQL. Now I'm using XAMPP, which gives us an Apache server, MySQL, PHP, all that stuff on my local machine, and it also comes with phpMyAdmin, which is a tool for managing your databases. So let's go to localhost /phpMyAdmin. And all we have to do from here is create a database, because Rails uses something called database migrations, which are awesome. They make it so that you don't have to go into your database and create your tables and all your fields. You can do that through Rails. You can do it through the command line. So all we're going to do is create a new database here, and I'm just going to call it My Articles. Oh, it already exists. Shit. I just need to delete this real quick. Oh, never mind. I'll just keep it. It's empty. So just create a new database. I'm calling it My Articles. Make sure you know your database username and password. Okay, I'm using the root user. So now that that's set up, what we need to do is we need to install the MySQL 2 gem. A gem is kind of like a package. If you've used Node.js in the past, a gem is kind of like an npm package or module. All right, so we can actually install it by going to our command line here. Let's clear this out, and we're going to say gem install MySQL 2. Okay, and as long as you use the Rails installer in Windows, you should have access to the gem command. So that installed. Now we need to add that to our gem file. So let's go down to gem file, which is in the root, and you can see by default we have this SQLite gem. I'm actually just going to comment that out, and I'm going to get rid of all these comments. We don't need these. And yeah, we'll get rid of those, and let's get rid of that, and then we're just going to put in our gem and MySQL 2. All right, and then we're going to just save that. So now we have that gem installed, and now we're going to go back to our configuration for the database, which is the database.yml file, and we're going to change the adapter here to MySQL 2. Okay, now in addition to that, we have to add our username and password. So let me just check something here. Yeah, we're going to use our username. Okay, I'm using my root database user, and then my password, which is just 1 through 6. Okay, and then for down here, we're going to change the database name. So right here, let's see, we'll change this to my articles, which is what I called it. Okay, and you can have different databases for your test environment, your production environment. I'm just going to put the same for all of these. All right, and then we'll just go ahead and save that. All right, so that should be all set. Now let's try and run our server. Okay, Rails comes with a dev server, and we can run it by saying either Rails server or Rails S. All right, so let's run that. And it should open up on port 3000 by default. You can see it's running. Control C to stop. But let's go ahead and check that out. So if we go to, I'm going to just leave phpMyAdmin open, and let's go to localhost port 3000. Okay, and there we go. We get this "Yay, you're on Rails" message. It shows us the version of Ruby and of Rails. So good, that's all set up. Now we need to think about our data. Okay, so all we're going to have is an articles table, and it's going to have a title, a body, and it's going to have like a created at, and so on. Now to create that, we don't have to go into phpMyAdmin or anything like that. We can just use the command line, and we can do a database migration. So this right here, running the server, I'm going to just leave that running and then pull down another command line for us to do our our other stuff in. And what I want to do is generate a model. Okay, a model is basically when you create a resource in your database, like a post table or users, anything like that, you want to create a model for it. So to do that, we're going to do Rails G or generate. You could type out generate and then model, and then this is going to be article, and then we define our fields here that we want. So we're actually, let's make this a capital A. So article, and make it singular. Your model should be singular. And then we're just going to give this a title, which is going to be a string field, and then let's give it a body, which is going to be a text field, which is like a longer piece of text. So if we go ahead and run that, and we need to go into our folder. So let's cd into my articles first, and then we'll run that command again. All right, so you can see it created a few files for us. It created a migration file, and it created the actual model file. So let's close this config stuff. And if we go into our app folder and then models, you'll see there's an article.ruby file. And it's basically just a class that extends the application record class. All right, and then It also created a migration file, which is going to be in the DB folder, migrate, and you can see this create articles. And if you're familiar with Laravel, if you watch my Laravel crash course, then this kind of works the same way. Okay, it's going to create a table. We have our fields here. We can add stuff here if we want. It also is going to add some timestamp columns for us. All right, so let's go ahead and run the migration, because right now, if we go and we look in our articles database, there's nothing there because we didn't actually run the migration. We just created the model. So let's go ahead and do that now. So let's clear this out, and all we need to do is say Rails DB : migrate, very similar to Laravel. Okay, so that ran. Now let's refresh this. And now you can see we have some system tables here, but the one that we created is this articles table. And if we look at the structure here, we have an ID, which is the primary key, a title, body, those are the two that we added, and then it also adds the two timestamps here as well. All right, so much easier than going through and creating all of this either in the MySQL shell or through this phpMyAdmin. It's just much cleaner, much easier. Now, before we actually enter some data, I want to just make a couple of the fields required, which are basically just the title and the body. So we do that inside the model. So models article.rb, and we're going to go into this class, and we're going to say validates. We're going to do validates title, and then we want to say presence. I'm going to say presence : true, which just means that it's required. And then we're going to do the same thing for the body. So let's copy that, and we'll just say body. All right, that way it has to have those two fields. So now what we want to do is insert some data, and there's a lot of different ways to do this. One way with Rails is to use a gem called Faker, which, let me just pull that up. Let's see, we'll say Rails Faker, which is this right here. Okay, so basically we can use any of these functions here. Let's say book, Faker book, and then we can do Faker book title, and it's just going to generate a title of a book for us, and we can use that in some kind of field in our database. We can generate an author, a publisher, anything like that, and you can see there's a bunch of this stuff. Whoops. There's a bunch of this stuff. Let's look at this is kind of a cool one, superhero. So this will actually generate like a superhero name, a power, things like that. So it's just an easy way to generate data. So let's install Faker. And what I'm going to do is go into our gem file, and this is going to be a development dependency. Okay, you don't need this in production. It's just for development. So what we're going to do is put it in this this namespace right here, this group of development. So we'll say gem Faker. Okay, now it's not installed yet. We just put that in our file. We can run a command called bundle install that'll look at all the gems here and make sure that all of them are installed, including Faker. So let's go back here and let's run bundle install. Okay, and now Faker should be installed. Now what we want to do is we want to go to we want to go to db and then seeds.ruby, and this is where we can generate data to put in our database, and this gives you some comments here, but we're going to be using Faker for this. So let me see, I think I have this open over here. Yeah, so I'm going to get rid of everything here, all these comments. Now, if you want to insert more than one, you want to do this in a loop. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say 5.times. All right, and this is just a way of doing a loop in Ruby. And then let's do, let's see what I want to do, article.create. Okay, and then in here we're going to put an object. So for our article, we want to have a title. And then we're going to use Faker here for the title. So let's say Faker, and then we want to do a double colon, and then book.title, just like we saw on the documentation. That's going to just create a book title for us. All right, and then we also want for the body, we're going to use faker, and we're going to use something called lorem, and then dot sentence. Okay, and that's just going to give us a random lorem ipsum sentence, which is kind of just like dummy text. And that's all we want. It'll do this 5 times. So let's go ahead and save this. Now, in order to run this seeds Ruby file, we actually need to run a specific command in our terminal. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, I'm just going to clear this out, and we're going to run Rails db. We want to do db seed. Let's see, what is this? Oh, I didn't end this. I'm just gonna put end at the end. Sorry about that. Okay, let's try that again. All right, so you can see we got no errors, which is usually a good thing. So let's go check our database. And let's go into browse our articles, and there we go. So we have an ID starting at 1, it's auto increment. We have titles, which are just book titles, and then body, which are just random sentences, and then the created at and updated at, those get inserted automatically. All right, so we now have some data to work with. So models and data are all set. Now we want to create a controller. So controllers are going to go in the app folder and then in controllers. Now we're using an API, so I'm going to create a specific folder in the controllers called API, and then inside there we also want to create a folder called V1 for version 1. That way, if we ever want to update this API and completely change things around, we can just create a V2 and then a V3, and you know, it just makes things much more scalable. So in here, let's create a file, and we're going to call this let's call this articles underscore controller dot rb. All right, and we're actually going to add a namespace. Let's do module API and just do an end here. And then in here, we're going to say module v1 and then do an end. Okay, and then inside here, we want to create our class. So this is going to be articles controller, and this is going to extend the application controller. Okay, so it'll inherit all the stuff from that. So in here we can create our functions. Now I'm going to create a function called index. So we're going to do def index. Okay, make sure we end that. And then in here we're going to just say at articles, and we want to set that to basically get all of our articles. So we're going to use the article model that we created, and we can just call, I'm going to do order because I want to order these by the date. So we can say order, and then we can put in here created at, and then we want that to be descending. Okay, so very simple. It's just going to query our database for all articles, and it's going to order them by date. Now what we want to do is basically just call render JSON, and then we're gonna create an object here, right? And then this is gonna have a status, and we're gonna set this status to success. Okay, and you can format your response however you want, but I'm just doing it this way. And then we're gonna have a message. Actually, we'll just do message, and we'll say loaded articles. And then the next one is going to be the actual data. So we'll say data, and that's going to be articles. Actually, you know what I want to do is just let's go like that. So data articles, and then after the object here, we're going to put a comma and say status, which is going to be okay. All right, and that should do it for the index. So let's save that. And then we need to add some routes. So let's go to config and then routes.ruby. And let's just go in here, and we're going to say namespace. So namespace for our API, do. Okay, and then in here we also want to do our namespace for v1. So v1, actually that should be in quotes, v1 do. Okay, and then in here, all we have to do is say resources articles. Okay, and that should add the correct routes. So let's save that. And then if we want to check the actual routes, what this does is we can go to our command line here. Let's clear that out, and we can say Rails routes. Okay, and you can see it gives us a list of all the different routes. So we have, let's see, where's the index? Right here, API v1 articles index is, well, that's a post request. And then we have the get request. We have articles show, which is going to pertain to just showing a single article. We have put for update, delete for destroy. But we have to create these specific function names. Okay, remember we did index. Well, we want to do create, show, update, and destroy as well if we want that, you know, full RESTful functionality. So let's go ahead and give it a shot as far as making a get request to you know, to get all of our articles. So I'm going to go to, let's see. Now you can use anything you want to make the actual request. I'm going to use Postman, which is a Chrome extension. And I already have it installed, so I'm going to just launch it. And let's see, I'm just going to clear out some of this other stuff here. Let's see, we'll delete that. Delete, and let's make a get request to HTTP, and it's going to be localhost, and we want port 3000, and then we're going to go /API/v1/articles, and let's do a send. Alright, so we're getting a 500 error, which probably means we have some kind of syntax error. Let me just check the logs here, and let me just open up our controller, and let's see, class module. So I'm looking at this here, class module name must be a constant. Oh, you know what, this should be v1, capital V1. Let me save that. And let's try it again. There we no, there we don't go, but at least we're getting something here. Undefined local variable for our method okay. So let's see. This right here should actually be a space and then okay like that. There we go. So here's our response. So we get status success, message loaded articles, and then our data has an array of all of our articles. Okay, you can see we have the ID, the title, the body, the created at, updated at. It's all coming back from this this route right here, which is exactly what we wanted. So that takes care of listing all of our articles. Now, what if we want to just fetch a single article by just going, you know, articles / and then the ID? So to do that, let's go back to our controller, and under the index, let's say def show. And in here, we're going to say article equals the article model. And then we just want to basically just call find. And then we want to pass in the parameters, okay? And we can get this, we can get the ID param by saying params and then some brackets and then a colon ID, okay? And that's going to fetch whatever is in the right here, okay? So then what we want to do is just again render the JSON. So let's just copy this, and for the data we're just going to say data article. And we'll say loaded article for the message. Everything else can stay the same. So let's go ahead and save that. And then we're going to go over here and still a get request, except we're just going to add the /1 here and then send. And now you'll see we're only getting the first article. If we want to get, let's say, the one with 3, the ID of 3, it's going to get that one. Okay, very, very easy. So now we want to implement the create. So under show, let's say def create, and this is going to handle a post request when we try to add an article from from somewhere else. So for this, we're going to have to add some params here as well. So let's say article, and we're going to set this to our article model.new, and then we're going to pass in here article underscore params. Okay, so we basically have to whitelist certain fields that we want to be able to enter, okay, through this API. So we're going to go under the create right here for now and just say, actually, first of all, we're going to make this private, and we're going to do we're going to define article underscore params, and we're going to take params dot permit, and then in here we want to put the fields that we want to permit, which are going to be the title and the body. Okay, those are the only two that we want to actually be entering through the request. And then let's see, I think, yeah, that should be all set. Let's just put an end here, and yeah, so that should be good. Now once we do that, we're going to check for the save. So we'll say if article.save, then what do we want to happen? We want to render a response, so we'll just copy one of these. And this will be a success. And for the message, we'll say saved article, and then we'll send along the article. Status is okay. And let's put an else here. And if it doesn't save, then something went wrong. Let's just copy this response, and we'll change this to error. And we'll say for the message, article not saved. And then for the data, we should be able to say article.errors, and that'll give us an actual error. Okay, and then for the status, we're actually going to change that to, what did I want to change that to? It's like, what the hell is it? Unprocessable or something like that. I have like 4 different blog posts open right here. Unprocessable entry. So right here, just, yeah, unprocessable entry. Let me just, I don't know why I'm getting those on this screen. All right, so let's let's go with that. We'll try it out. So let's save. We'll go back to Postman, and I'm going to open up another tab here, and this is going to be a post request. Okay, so it's going to be HTTP localhost port 3000 API version 1 and articles. And then we're going to choose in the headers, we want to choose the content type, which is going to be application/JSON. All right, and then let's go to body, and I'm going to just enter some raw JSON here. So we want the title, and we'll just call this article, I don't know, we'll just say test article 1. And then for the body, okay, you need to make sure it's actual formatted JSON, so you want double quotes on the title and the value, or the key and the value. For the body, we'll just say this is the body. All right, so let's cross our fingers and click send, and there we go. Success, saved article, gives it ID 6 because that's the next one in line, and we have the title, the body, and the timestamps. And if we go to our phpMyAdmin just to double check, and let's reload, there it is, test article 1. Oops. All right, so we can now create, we can read the list of articles, and we can read a single article. So now what we want to be able to do is delete an article. All right, so let's do that. So we're going to create a destroy function. So def destroy. Okay. So this is going to be similar to the show. So let's grab that, because we want to get the article by its ID, right? And then we just want to do article dot destroy, and then we'll send a request. I'm sorry, not a request, a response. Let's grab this. Let's say deleted article, and we'll save that. Let's give that a shot. So for this one, I'm going to open up another tab. Let's choose a delete, and we want to go same thing. It's going to be HTTP localhost 3000 API v1 / articles / and then the one we want to delete. So let's do 6. All right, and we'll go ahead and send. Success, deleted article. All right, let's take a look at phpMyAdmin, and now it's deleted. All right, so the last thing we want to be able to do is to update an entry or an article. So let's go back to our controller, and we're going to say def update end, and again we want to grab the specific article like that. And then we're going to do similar to what we did with the save. We're going to do an if statement here, and we're going to say if article dot update, and then we need to pass into here, actually, you know what, it's going to be update underscore attributes, and then we need to pass into here those article underscore params, just like we did with the save. Okay, so we'll do that, and then we'll have an else. And then we just need to decide the response we're going to send. So let's grab this for if everything goes okay. So success, we'll say updated article. And then if something goes wrong, then we're going to just grab that, paste that in, and this is going to be article not updated will be the message. We'll keep that, errors and unprocessable entry or entity, and that should do it. So let's save. Let's go back to Postman, and we're going to do this time a put request, which is for an update. 3000 API v1 articles / and let's update number 5. Okay, so we have to go to our headers and add a content type of application JSON, and then let's go to body and we'll say raw, and let's see, we'll put in our title. Let's say updated title, and then we'll put in our body, and we'll say updated body. Alright, so let's go send. We get a success. Okay, gives us back the ID of 5, gives us the updated title and body. So now let's just check the phpMyAdmin, reload, and you can see that number 5 has now been updated. So we now have a complete REST API in the sense that we can create, read, update, and delete. Now, this is our back end, okay? So you can build a front-end application using whatever you'd like. If you want to use, Angular, if you want to use another JavaScript framework, if you want to use Python or PHP or anything that can make HTTP requests, okay? Now, as far as authentication and sending tokens and stuff, that's something you would want to implement if you're building a production REST API, unless it's completely public, and you don't want that stuff. And that gets a little more complicated, but I will get into that at a later point. I just wanted to show you how to create a very basic RESTful API using Rails. All right, so hopefully, you guys like this. Like I said, it was kind of off the cuff. I do have some blog posts with some snippets, but I didn't have the entire thing, planned out. So if it didn't go as smoothly as some of my other tutorials, that's why. All right, so please go ahead and leave a like if you like this video, subscribe, follow me on social media, and I will see you next time.